India is a cricket-frenzied nation. The cricketers may be ordinary athletes between the 22 yards, but outside the stadium they are often elevated to a status akin to that of a demigod. So much so is their popularity that the stardom of the biggest of actors or politicians pales in comparison, with the nation desperately looking to quench its thirst for cricket and everything ubiquitously related to it. The cricket journalists become the historians of our time and in turn a memory of the transient. Hi and welcome, you're watching TFI English, the national socio-political analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Tanya, and in this video I'll tell you about the anti-Hindu sentiments propagated by Wisden India. Let's begin. While reporting a cricket match or tournament requires objectivity and brevity like any other facet of journalism, it appears that the cricket journalists in the country and abroad are also wrapping themselves up in hatred for Hindus and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The polarization of politics has reached the echelons where even cricket journalists cannot differentiate between black, white and grey. Sara Varis, a Wisden India journalist who has received bylines in infamous left-liberal portals like the Quint and DTV, has found herself in the middle of a raging storm after an old tweet of hers went viral on social media platforms. Reportedly, in the tweet dated 2013, Varis can be seen gleefully giving an idea to one of her peers to call Hindus rapist. She tweets, "Angela Malik 11 Inju, another awesomer idea. If someone calls you as terrorist, say all rapers are Hindus. Name one Muslim one." Wisden and its journalists appear to have an inherent hatred for India. Former Indian opener and legend of the game Sunil Gavaskar had called out the publication last year for being biased towards the white-skinned English players. After Rohit Sharma was excluded from the 2020 edition of Wisden Cricketer's Almanac, Gavaskar wrote in a column for Midday, "A player could get thousands of runs and hundreds of wickets, but if that hasn't happened in England, then he still won't be in the list. Since that has been the case for so long, why should anyone even give the publication any importance?" Similarly, VVS Lakshman also targeted Wisden by stating, "I think anyone who follows the game of cricket will be surprised and shocked not to see Rohit Sharma's name in those 5 players list. World Cup is bigger than Ashes. I'm really shocked and surprised by this announcement from Wisden." And Wisden has had a history of hating on Indians. The recent Ranveer Singh Starer 83, based on the exploits of the Indian cricket team that won the 1983 Prudential's Cup or World Cup, showed it without any whitewash. David Frith, former Wisden editor before the tournament began in 1983, wrote an article objecting to the idea of India being invited to the World Cup because of their dismal record. Frith wrote in the article that he would eat his words if India progressed beyond the league stage. However, after David's prophecy came untrue, he was forced to read the paper in which the article had been published. While the entire incident has been referred to as banter by David, those close to the matter understand that it was yet another casual racism by a white-skinned Britisher. Then there are Australian cricket journalists such as Gideon Haigh and Peter Lalor cleverly painting their hatred for India as criticism for the Indian cricket. At least the portals like NYT, WAPO play on the fair ground and have no pretense of their hatred for the current regime. However, akin to Chappells of Australia who prefer to bowl underarm to deny the opposition a fair chance, the cricket journalists are doing all the same. Gideon last year wrote a feature-length article in The Australian titled "Ugly Trend That Can Poison Indian Cricket," where he presented his prejudiced and myopic understanding of complex issues as oversimplified facts. Gideon talked about the fake farmer protest, political appointments to BCCI, India's alleged diminishing space for dissent, Rehana and more. A paragraph of the article is enough to understand where Gideon was coming from. Unfortunately, India is a democracy in worsening decay, and thanks to 7 years of the BJP's Hindu majoritarianism at odds with the country's traditions of pluralism and tolerance. And that's got implications for cricket, even Australian cricket, of which we should be aware. The ruling BJP's modus operandi is demolishing minorities, subverting institutions, intimidating media, criminalizing dissent, and not least tyrannizing the internet. Read the para. It's not the first time that politics and cricket have mixed in India. During the UPA rule, the likes of Sharad Pawar practically usurped all power in BCCI and ICC, and yet the minority rights were not infringed. Australia, which has imposed draconian lockdown measures on its residents over the last 1.5 years, need not preach to India about tolerance. Another, the Australian cricket journalist named Peter Lalor, meanwhile, is direct in his attack on the Hindus and PM Modi. He openly bats for the likes of Disha Ravi and gains good amounts of retweets by, quote, tweeting India's oxygen misery. In one of his tweets, Lalor, quote, tweeted known leftist and history distorter Ramchandra Guha, "Why Modi and Shah fear young activist" by Ramchandra Guha, NDTV. Similarly, in another one of his tweets, he shared the scroll article on the oxygen crisis by remarking it had taken the Narendra Modi government 8 months after the pandemic began to invite bids for 162 oxygen generation plants. In 2016, after Virat Kohli refused to be friends with the Australians and share a drink after the match, the entire Australian media compared him to Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Lalor writes in his article, if there were any doubts about the poor spirit between the Indian and Australian sides, it was confirmed after the series when the home side shunned a suggestion the two sides drink together. In 2016, when India and West Indies played a seemingly innocuous yet high-octane T20 series in the USA to popularize the sport, certain gullible cricket journalists here in India, in cahoots with foreign vested interest propagandists, published a similar report. The report, titled "Cricket in the Service of Hindu Nationalism," stated that the two was an attempt by the supposed Hindu nationalist government of Narendra Modi to spread their influence in the states. The article read, Modi, elected in 2014 and re-elected by a startlingly large margin earlier this year, has represented the sharp end of Hindu nationalist politics throughout his rise to India's top job. It further added, in his 5 years as Prime Minister, Modi has deliberately challenged India's constitutional commitment to secular politics and embraced economic neoliberalism in a country that is rapidly privatizing and deregulating. His foreign policy has also been aggressive. He has quoted fellow authoritarians like Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin and shares Putin's taste for choreographed man of nature posing. He has turned up the heat on already simmering tensions with Pakistan and Bangladesh. And he was used the theoretically neutral Indian army as a propaganda tool. At first glance, it wouldn't look like it is a cricket-related article, but it indeed is one. Allegedly read of the article, and it doesn't take much to join the dots as to why the writers picked this particular series to extrapolate and push their divisive ideas, masquerading as compelling criticism. In May 2019, Donald Trump was at the peak of his powers, and a few weeks later, the results of the Lok Sabha elections were to be announced. The left establishment was furious and needed a new avenue to push its agenda. Cricket articles, even if bad in quality, are chucked down in astronomical quantities in India, and thus pushing such ideas through a cricket article appeared rather convenient. The article is penned by an Indian journalist named Nakul Pandey, and a customary look at his social media footprint is enough to suggest why such regurgitation was done from his end. When the new IPL teams were announced last year, Nakul took to Twitter to show his funny side but failed miserably. He tweeted the Ahmedabad Sanghis and the Lucknow Bhakts. When a tweeter replied by saying Ahmedabad Modis surely, Nakul retorted with another crass remark, the Ahmedabad Chaukidars. A PM of the country that served as the CM of the state on multiple occasions is seemingly attacked. Meanwhile, a state and the identity of millions of inhabitants are reduced to a remark that is used as crass slang by the left liberal supposed to besmirch those supporting a certain political ideology. Truly a work of cricketing logic on display from Nakul in those tweets. If it was a troll or a politician, it could have been understood that such attacks were warranted. However, when a journalist, and that too a cricket journalist, tends to wear the cloak of politics, it suggests something sinister is cooking in the offing. This is a carefully crafted narrative by the left media. Sports and in specific cricket-related articles had remained untouched from the tentacles of politics. However, the deluge of such journalists and articles by them suggests that the left lobby is changing its game plan. It is trying to persuade the readers and their psyche through their surrogate political ideas passing off as cricket commentary. Beware of the trend and look out for it.